Rap Sheet talking to Karen Garigian on her podcast, Ions Foxborough. Throws a direct shot at Tommy Curran's report that Bill is being fired at the end of all this. Although apparently the decision may change from the time the Germany game happened to the end of the season. So he doesn't like Tommy Curran's report, and what he's saying is nobody knows how this is going to end. And if that's his report, I don't like his report either. What do you mean nobody knows how it's going to end? Robert Kraft knows how it's going to end. If it's ending, he knows. So what do you think of all this, Mike? What do you make?
So, well, Tom and Ian are two reporters that have been around, and we know that they're pretty well sourced, right? Like they're connected to the highest people in the organization. So start with that respect for them, right, as reporters.
Yeah.
I look at it, I'll just speak for myself, Beetle. You know, I think on this story, when I think about Bill's future, I've always thought it was going to be at the end of the year, three people are going to sit down, Robert Kraft, Jonathan Kraft, and Bill Belichick. And that meeting will ultimately be the decider as to what happens, because I think at points along the way, Beetle, like if you had asked me what are Robert Kraft and Jonathan Kraft feeling after that Germany game, I think they would probably be like, it's time. Like, because the emotion, right? These seasons there are points in the season where it can get so emotional. And then, but I also know, like there are also people who measure out their decisions. Like, they don't make emotional decisions. So, they, like you said, Beetle, they might know, and they might have already measured it out. And I think I'm just willing, for me, I'll speak for myself, I'm just going to wait to find out what happens in that meeting. And ultimately, we might find out, yeah, they did. They were ready to move on.
I think they might be having that meeting going into it, thinking to themselves, he's staying. So I don't think it's one way or the other in terms of, I think they've got a decision made. But I think it could be that they want him to stay. I don't think it's automatic that they want him fired.
So that's interesting.
And I think that meeting is happening either way, given how this is played out on the field, and that they have these meetings at the end of years every year.
That's right.
But that meeting this year is about him, and not just about the team. And they might be going into that meeting saying, this guy is not going anywhere.
I think that's interesting, Beetle, because I think, to me, the context of the discussion comes back to March, when Robert Kraft said it's very important to me that we're in the playoffs. And I also think, from the big picture, the 4-year snapshot. Tom leaving, that to me is where I start on this whole discussion, because we know Robert Kraft didn't, that really hurt him. He really wanted that to happen, for Tom to stay here, and it didn't. And so I think as he measures this out, as we talk about it, it's the 4 years, what's happened since that point, and then it's this season and how it went downhill. So I don't know, Beetle, based on that, I don't know. That's an interesting point of view that you think he would want him to stay, given that. Given what we've heard from him.
I think the decision is made in December will have no impact on whether he's here or somewhere else. These games, Kansas City, doesn't matter. Their decision, in their mind, they have one. And whatever happens over these last 3 weeks won't impact it one bit.
So I'm with you now, but after the win in Pittsburgh, and I said, look, they could have made their decision, and I'm with Mike. I'm with Mike on this. After that Germany game, you talk about snapshots and points along the season. The season is what the season is, but there are things that you're going to cling to. That was a big marquee moment for this team. I mean, all the sponsors, the owner in the locker room doing everything, and you lay an egg. And after that game, you're like, okay, now we know what we're going to do. We haven't put pen to paper. We haven't shown them the door yet, but now we know what's happening. I thought, the last chance was that prime time, albeit an Amazon Thursday night game, but you get a win against the Steelers. And I thought to myself and said it out loud here, if you win out and you get wins against the Chiefs and the Bills, and you end up beating the Broncos on Christmas Eve and the Jets just for the icing on the cake at the end of the season, ownership would have to be inhuman not to go back and have, wait a second, now we really have to think about this. I don't care that we were 3-10 going into those games, or 3-9 going into or 2-10 going into those games. He really showed something at the end of that season with real actual wins against teams who were trying to win, and they would have had to have reconsidered it. But now, after you lost to the Chiefs, No, it doesn't matter.
And Pittsburgh's a suckbag team, which was proven again this weekend.
But they've lost to some suckbag teams, and they had one good win against a good team earlier in the season against Buffalo. I'm just saying, if that started a run of 5 wins to finish off the season, that would have included 2 quality wins against 2 quality teams. I think they would have been foolish to not reconsider. But now it doesn't matter. It can't matter now. What happens in these last 3 games? This cannot impact the decision if it in fact has been made, and I believe it has.
Can I present you this scenario, Hardy? I want to see if this moves you off that spot. Okay? So they come into this meeting, and so to me, covering Bill Belichick, like, there's always, you never know. You never know with him. He comes into this meeting, Hardy, and you're the Krafts, and I'm Bill Belichick.
Yep.
And I know, I think I know what you're going to tell me, and I say, all right, I probably haven't said this to you over the last 24 years, but being the coach of the New England Patriots means a lot to me. And I made some missteps here over the last 3-4 years. I didn't handle the quarterback situation as well as I could have. I made some terrible roster decisions. I've been so locked in on the game to game, but I've had this on the back of my mind. I have a vision for how I'd like to correct this. And I would appreciate it if you show me the respect to say that for everything we've accomplished together, to give me one more shot here. Would you change your mind if Bill Belichick came into that meeting and approached it that way?
No, because I would say, of course I respect you, and I love you, and your name will forever be associated with this place and this team. Yeah. But don't tell me you were so focused in on the game to game. You've been the general manager and in charge of everything involving this football team for over 2 decades, and you had essentially final say in all the personnel moves. And we talked about this. What are you talking about, Bill? We talked about it last year and the year before and the year before, how we were planning things out and how you wanted to do certain things a certain way because you always were a big picture guy. But it doesn't work anymore, so we're all done.